Welcome to the second episode of Talkin' Tech Hoops. I know it's been a while since the first one, but we're doing a second one. Whoop-de-doo. I am Jujician. I am here with my co-host Thomas. We're just kind of gonna sum up the season as it's gone. As we get into March Madness, I'm gonna be covering a little bit more, just March Madness stuff in general on the channel, or at least I'm gonna try to. So subscribe below for either more Talkin' Tech Hoops, more March Madness. I'm going to put my socials down there. I am very active on Twitter, so follow the Twitter at Jujician as well. So the last podcast that we did, the last episode of this that we did, was after the Howard game, which we said there's a lot of positives and obviously a lot of, there's concerns of, hey, we're playing against these lower mid-majors and we're struggling. Obviously, UMass Lowell, the next game after we recorded that, was the definition of that. But there has been a lot of ups and downs this season, as we expected with the first year of Damon Stoudemire. Thomas, what's one big thing that's really stood out to you, good, positive or negative? Just one really big thing that stood out for the entire season.
This team's been really frustrating to watch. There's games where obviously that stick out: Duke, UNC, Mississippi State, where you think this team has finally turned that corner, and then the next day they'll go shit the bed against Louisville or NC State or Notre Dame, teams that I think we have a higher talent level than, teams that we should be beating. But you're playing a very young team. Kawasi Reeves is a sophomore. Your leader is still a junior in Miles Kelly, and Nate George and Bai Dongo, who neither of us thought were going to be having a big impact. Both are having a big impact as true freshmen. And Nate George should be a senior in high school. So it's frustrating, but you understand why it's frustrating when you take a step back and not look at it as a fan, but as an analyst of the game.
Yeah, it's if you take a step back and look at this bigger picture, there's a lot of positives to take away, even with the frustration. Nate George, we said it in the first episode, we thought he was just a freshman, and he's probably not going to get a whole bunch of playing time, but he's a freshman, he was a 0-star, whatever. And he comes out in the Cincinnati game, shows a little bit of promise, and then, 2 games later, he comes out and has 8 assists against Duke, and helps upset Duke. Bai Dongo's first game was obviously Cincinnati. Showed promise, wasn't really anything. Against Duke, he drops 21 points, helps lead an upset. And you think that corner starts to take a turn. We beat Mississippi State at home as well. We're 3-1 against ranked teams in general this season. But then the Nevada game was kind of the unraveling of kind of the web that we had going. It's like there would be games we had good offense and not good defense. There would be games we have good defense and not good offense, but we're just kind of winning them and sticking them out. And then the Nevada game, once that domino kind of fell, everything just kind of went poorly. You got the Florida State game to kick off this real part of ACC play, obviously the Duke game in December, but Florida State was kind of a mess. But Tech has been right there in every single game, even with it being as frustrating. I believe it's 17 or 18 single-digit games that we've played out of the 25 or so games that we've played. So it's
Wake Forest being an exception.
Yes, obviously.
Last week, which was a mess. But
as Stoudemire put it, they got their ass beat. I think that's one thing that we can go with. But with Stoudemire is it's a breath of fresh air. It's not the same repetitive mannerisms every single game. Where it's like, oh, it's a tough game in the ACC. They run a hell of a program, and it's like it's a breath of fresh air that we're hearing. He's just being blunt. He's telling it how it is. It's like, if there's certain games, he'll just address what's wrong. There was no leadership this game. That's something we got to work on. It's like there was no communication. There was no, it's something different every game, which is very frustrating. But overall, we are a super young team. I mean, we had 3 freshmen play tonight against Syracuse when this is being recorded. Nate George, Bai Dongo, Sacco. It's like those are 3 freshmen right there in your 9-man rotation. And 2 of them are starters. It's a very young team. The only seniors, I believe Carter Murphy's a senior. We have Sturdivant, who has been phenomenal for us this season. We probably don't win a lot of the games we have without Sturdivant. Tyjon Claude, who's come up big in huge moments. You see your frustrations with him, but he has come up big, however you want to put it. And then Carter Murphy gets very little minutes. He's finally starting to crack the rotation a little bit, but who knows how much that stays with Debo Coleman whenever he comes back. But you see the youth of this team, and it's something to be built forward, especially with the recruiting class that Tech has coming in. With it's, I believe, a top 25 ranked class right now. Could possibly get better. We don't know. As signing progresses, we'll end up seeing. We're still in a lot of like 3-4 star top 5s, top 10s for recruiting. So Stoudemire obviously sees this vision of getting these young guys to be key contributors, and they're talented. He has an eye for talent.
No, absolutely, and we've got some inside information about other recruits that we're not allowed to talk about.
Absolutely.
If the person that I'm speaking to is telling me the truth, and it's somebody that I trust, there's big things on the horizon for this recruiting, for this next recruiting class in 25. So the future is still bright. It's frustrating in the meantime, but we see what it's building into.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of those. We knew from the start. We don't know what we're going to get from this team. Coming into ACC play, we were 8-3, 8-4. I want to say before, right after the Nevada game, a close game in Hawaii. That whole run in Hawaii was phenomenal. But what stood out to me necessarily as the season has developed is we're seeing a very different Miles Kelly as a player than we saw at the beginning of the season or even last year. Last year Miles Kelly was a lot of catch and shoot. He was a lot of he didn't really create his own shot, and that was something that Stoudemire visibly wanted to make Miles Kelly into, because you see a lot of it at the pro level. He wants to get his guys ready to be pros. That it's something that Miles Kelly has struggled with, to put it just bluntly. He struggled with trying to shoot off the dribble. He's become more of a playmaker the past few games. He's become, like tonight he didn't have a great night, but even against Louisville he had the 36 points. Our last game on Tuesday, I don't remember who they played. It's just slipping my mind. Oh, Notre Dame. Like, he didn't have a huge scoring output, but he was moving the ball really well. He's becoming a playmaker. It's just while his usage rate might have stayed the same, his bad decisions, I feel like, has gone down, if that makes sense.
He's playing less Euro ball, which,
mm-hmm.
to be fair, the offense that he was in was not suited for him to become an NBA level scorer, and he's still not an NBA level scorer right now, but you can see he's making strides to becoming an NBA type player, which is what Damon Stoudemire wants to do with the program. He wants kids to come to Georgia Tech, not only for the education, which is, an easy selling point with Georgia Tech, but he wants them to come there to become NBA players. And in the past, that hasn't really been a possibility at Tech under, the past two regimes, honestly.
Yeah, obviously the most successful right now out of the last two regimes is Josh Okogie, recruited by Brian Gregory, played under Pastner, and then Jose Alvarado, key bench piece on the Pelicans. But that's all the NBA level success that we've had since Brian Gregory took over. Before that,
and you see the archetype with those two guys. Those aren't two guys that are there because they're
mm-hmm.
super skilled players. Those are guys that hustle guys that made it to their league, because
exactly.
Because I'll be damned if they didn't make it to the league,
Yeah, the Jose one was, I honestly was surprised, just being real. It's like with his size and whatever, but he's carved out a huge role on that Pelicans team. Josh Okogie, I remember when he went into the draft process. Obviously I thought he was projected second round pick. Goes up in NBA first round, but that was like, you see, like with Okogie, he has more of an archetype of, he's not a scorer to create his own shot, but if you give him shots, he will make them. And that's kind of what Miles Kelly was last year under Pastner. Pastner found guys who could make shots, but they didn't necessarily create their own, and that's something that this Tech team has had to get used to. It's like, I see Kwesi Reeves as Miles Kelly last year, obviously without the efficiency Uh, but he is this catch and shoot guy who can take one dribble, pull up. The only difference with Kwesi is he's extremely athletic. It's quite
Much more
scary.
athletically gifted than
Yes,
Kelly.
exactly.
But also much more raw, I think too.
Hmm. I think that's a lot with this team is you have Kwesi and Tafara and Baidongo, in all honesty, that are all these really raw players that Bai's just kind of unlocked it a little bit more. There's still raw pieces. His jump shot is not a bad jump shot. He just doesn't use it often. His free throw percentage can be better. He has a little bit of a turnover issue sometimes, but
Especially tonight.
yes,
Especially
tonight was very frustrating. But
Tonight
you
was
see,
rough for him, despite a good stat line for him.
yes, and it's like you see this, the way to put it, you see all of these pieces, and it's just they just have to work together. And Tafara, I think, if he can improve his jump shot, I mean, all the tools are there. The length, his defense makes you have to play him because he's such a good defender and he's a good rebounder. His offense is just a little bit lackluster. If that's something that he can improve on, we saw a little bit of flashes tonight of it. We obviously saw flashes of it in the Penn State game. His athleticism is out of this world. His jump shot is just really the one thing it's his jump shot and his decision making. Sometimes he just kind of wants to play the hero ball and make the highlight play with the layup, or it's like that's something. His decision making is something that can also be improved. But I mean, he's an extremely raw player. Sacco is still an extremely raw player, and even Nate George. They've just kind of been thrusted into these roles, and I mean they're doing well at it. Sacco the last 5 games has been phenomenal, and Nate George this whole season for the most part he's trying to figure out his role. Sometimes Nate George honestly goes a little too fast, and
but he's 17.
yeah, exactly. He's still supposed to be a senior in high school, and it's like it's not me trying to discredit him, but it's like he does like that's the thing. What I like about having Sturdivant and him on the floor is Sturdivant can push the pace, but he also tends to slow it down a little bit, and Nate George wants to go fast. So, to me,
And with how frustrating George has been at times,
yes, sometimes having the calming
percentile in the country in assist to turnover ratio.
yeah, and it's like you wouldn't think that.
Incredible for a freshman.
It's incredible for a freshman nonetheless, but also the fact he should still be in high school, that having being one of the best assist to turnover ratio guards in the country, as this freshman who shouldn't even be a freshman, it's incredible. And the thing is, his game can only go up. There's so many pieces, like the little stretch that he had with Duke and Clemson, and just that whole stretch that he had where he was shooting lights out and scoring like crazy. It's something that you can see the pieces there, and sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't. But also, Nate George didn't have the full offseason to work with Tech. It was a late scholarship offer. He came onto campus late. It was just all sheer coincidence that he got on campus on time to play. And, I mean, he's taken his shot and run with it. But also, the fact, like, with once a full season of being able to watch film and be in the gym, and, like, apparently, according to my inside sources at Tech, Nate George is in the gym a lot. He is in the gym almost every single day. And him and, Bai is in there quite a bit. Nate is in the gym every single day, and all he does is he just wants to be the best player. He's still learning to watch film. He didn't really know how to watch film coming into this year. So it's obviously something Stoudemire is hard on him because he wants him to succeed, and you see all these pieces, and it's like, yes, George is frustrating at times, but again, he's a freshman, so it's something you just got to kind of run with right now. And it's like the season might be lost unless they make a run in the tournament, but you see the pieces, the foundation being built for this team.
I wouldn't even begin to say that the season's lost or anything like that. This is a team that can make some noise in the ACC tournament. This isn't a tournament team, and I think I've come to terms with that. But, but this team is competitive, and that's a big change from where we were last year at this point. Because last year at this point, we had no hope.
It's like, yeah, you pretty much
a program on the down. And now this is a program on the up, and you can see pieces that 2-3 years will be studs in this program, studs in the ACC. I think Nate George can be an All-ACC player. He can be an All-American player.
Absolutely. And and with the recruiting classes you come in, It's like, yes, some of them can be like, if some of them can be one and done, great. If they get 2-3 years out of it, great. Something that like crossed my mind is how Tom Izzo has built his program. It's like, yes, he has stud one and dones that'll come in and whatnot, but he also has players who are highly rated recruits that want that. Like, there's a player on their team currently who's named Cohen Carr, who is he was a top 50 player, 5-star recruit. He went to Michigan State, and he's getting very limited time off the bench, but he's okay with that because he understands Izzo can help get him to the next level, and his talent is absurd. I was watching the game earlier, and at halftime he already had like 8 to 10 points in basically 5 minutes. It's like, so how Izzo built his program, I'm not going to say Damon Stoudemire is going to do the exact same, because we don't know if he moves over to this one and done side, if he can get the one and dones. But you have guys that possibly could go one and done. You have guys that can possibly stay for 3-4 years and become the way past they can become studs. But the way Pastner wanted to do it was get old, stale, and that's part of it. That's why you don't have pro success. A lot of the pros, like, yes, having an older guy who's a veteran can be good, but a lot of the pros want these younger raw upside so they can develop them into the machine they want them to be. And role players usually are these
unless you're the Heat.
Unless you're the Heat, which
unless you're the Heat,
they are a outlier. Well, they're just an outlier. Yeah. But the way that Stoudemire is building the program, you see this positivity. Yes, fans can be very negative at times. It's very frustrating, and yes, criticism is rightfully so. But you also see with this program that there's building blocks. They're a as we've said, they're a super young team that will only get younger next year with 3 freshmen already coming in. We still haven't seen Lance Terry this year who's redshirting, which that could be a big shooting piece back. And one of the things Tech really just has to work on, that we see, is just they get into these 5 to 7 minute just lulls of they can't
zero offense,
zero defense, and they just can't do anything right.
Explaining. I'm not sure if it's a lack of focus, if it's coaching, if it's who knows what it is, but it's really frustrating to see.
Yeah, and it's but sometimes it's with the games. It's, can we escape this 5-minute lull? And like tonight, we had it, but we had the offensive lull at times, and the defense stepped up. Tonight was a very defensive game. Syracuse shot 17% from 3, I want to say, and part of that was to scouting with leave the certain shooters open. But that Syracuse team was just a team that shot 47% against North Carolina. So it was a team that was very capable of shooting, and Tech held them to 17% from 3. The defense can step up at times, and there's pieces on the defense. Obviously Tafara Gapare. Sacco, I think, did a phenomenal job tonight in the limited minutes he had. I think he had 2 steals, a block, and he is getting better game. The more game time he's getting, he's obviously not a piece that he's going to create his own shot. He's gonna. He's not a huge knockdown 3-point shooter, but he's found his role right now, and he's really excelling with it. And you're not seeing the raw fouling moments we saw at the beginning of the season with him that made us really frustrated.
No, exactly. I think Dongo is a very good defender. Has the potential to be a very good defender. Gapare can guard 1 through 5. I think his length is just outstanding, something this team needs. Sturdivant's a solid defender right now, but this is a team that this season, while they are offensively challenged in some areas, I think the defense just has to be better on a night-to-night basis.
Oh, 100%. And I went over and looked at it, and statistically, in terms of blocks and steals, and Gapare is one of the best in the country. His steal rate, his what is called a Hakeem rate, which is just basically the percentage of blocks and steals you get. He's one of the best in the country at that. It's his defense is all there. It's just the offense, obviously, and sometimes the 2 big lineup, tonight, the 2 big lineup I thought could have worked if they adapted correctly. Having the two big lineup of when Dewana was healthy, of having Dewana and Dongo, I just don't think worked. I'm not going to even try to be harsh on anybody. I just don't think it worked. I don't think they played well off of each other. I think that the Claude Dongo one is much better, just because Claude is a guy that he's going to crash the boards all the time, and he can be sound. He's a good free throw shooter. He makes smart decisions. He does have a little bit of butterfingers, some of the team does in general, but
so did Dongo tonight.
Yes, Dongo tonight. It's like it happens. But Tyjon has come up in big moments, especially in big games against Clemson. He had a really good night. Against UNC, I mean, he had to fill in for Dongo, who went out with the concussion.
And he was phenomenal that night.
He was phenomenal. It's just we have to take multiple games together in a row. We're getting into these one game win, and it's sometimes, and obviously it's been for the big games. So before tonight, all three of our ACC wins were Duke, UNC, and Clemson, who are some of the best in the conference. All three projected to make the tournament. Those were the three ACC wins, and we were sitting at 3-10, 3-11 in conference play.
Yeah.
So with that, it's like they woke up to basically play big teams, and then just forgot the rest of the ACC. And obviously that's something that will come with time, hopefully getting them more prepared. Some of that can be put onto coaching. Some of that can be put onto the players just not getting prepared, in terms of the right headspace. It's just we have to put multiple games together, and we just aren't getting that. We're getting one game here, one game there. We just had a 4-game losing streak snapped. Before that, I believe we had another 5-game losing streak. It's just having to piece multiple together, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing going forward. Just either for the rest of the season or even for next season, some issues to address. But
it's consistency. They're consistently inconsistent.
Yes,
if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. It's
going into any given night that you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yes,
which is, I'm sure, as terrifying as it is as a fan, it's even more terrifying for Stoudemire.
Oh, absolutely, and it's he's getting his guys as prepared as he can be for the most part. I mean, obviously, there's probably the one-offs. This is damn, he just got out-coached. I think the biggest out-coaching was honestly Florida State. Is that Wake Forest?
Yes.
It's Wake Forest was we just couldn't buy a bucket. I wasn't even mad with the looks we were getting. We just couldn't hit a shot for long periods, and we couldn't get a stop obviously to counter it. But FSU, I thought Leonard Hamilton just flat out ran circles around Stoudemire.
No, and that'll happen because Leonard Hamilton is one of the best in the business.
Oh, he absolutely is, and it's something getting used to the difference that his last head coaching job was at Pacific. Yes, he had the big dogs like Gonzaga and St. Mary's over there, but the ACC is just a different demon.
It's a different beast.
It's
a different beast.
It's something he's gonna have to get used to, and he's learning the hard way. I mean, at least he's we're giving him time, and it's frustrating this season, but what's frustrating this season can possibly turn as something they work on over the summer and get better at, and hopefully
I think it'll happen with just guys being more experienced.
Yes,
like we said, they're playing George, Dongo, Kawasi. I mean, those three are playing really big minutes, and they're all underclassmen.
Yes,
you're playing a very young team right now.
And the only one that truthfully played Power 5 minutes last year was Kawasi at Florida, and that's him, Sturdivant, and Kelly.
Who was not great at Florida.
No, he is the definition of our season. In all honesty, he is consistently inconsistent. He has great moments and great games, and then these other games, or honestly, since he's gone back to the black hair, has been very frustrating. It's he doesn't get a whole lot of shots up. He's not as aggressive. He sometimes takes bad shots in terms of the timing, whether it's it's not the right shot or it's just a tough shot. But it's he's the definition of the season. He's been consistently inconsistent, and it's if I wanted to take a look at it in terms of how he's doing, it's in terms of shooting or in terms of blocks for his position, he's one of the best in the country. If I go to shooting, he's just flat out average, and it's he has the potential to be such a great shooter, and it's just piecing everything together. It's part of it's being really raw and the little minutes he got at Florida comparatively now to huge minutes in the ACC, as you said. It's like I'm not going to knock the SEC. The SEC is a very tough conference, as they've shown the past few years. But I mean, it's all just the amount of minutes. He's not getting a whole lot. Didn't get a whole lot of minutes at Florida, and now he's coming here and he's basically playing 30 minutes a game on a night-to-night basis.
It's tough for him, but you know, he's a player that's going to keep himself on the floor regardless of how he's shooting because of his effort on defense. He's a fantastic rebounder.
Absolutely.
I think.
No,
Numbers may not show that, but
yeah,
the eye test shows it.
And I think something else, like in terms of rebounding for guards, Miles Kelly has gotten really good at rebounding compared to last year. It's like, I mean, tonight, he had the 10 rebounds, but he just, I don't know what his rebound rate is, and I'm not going to try to find it, but he's just a much better rebounder comparatively to last year. That last year he was just kind of, okay, be on the perimeter, you're guarding the perimeter, you're not going to... And it's like, even when he's on the perimeter, he's crashing the boards, and that's helped. Even though we don't necessarily see it, Tech is one of the better rebounding teams, not only in the ACC, but in the country. It doesn't pass the eye test, but they statistically are. But, I mean, part of that... Yeah, part of that comes down to everybody rebounding when the focus is on Dongo. Dongo is the reason we are rebounding at as high of a rate as we are. But it's when he's not getting the rebound, who else is crashing? Tonight, Syracuse is a big team, and Tech out-rebounded them by 20. It's the willingness to rebound, and this team is bought into that idea. At least there's something and that we can physically see. They're probably bought in on a bunch of different stuff, but at least that we can see. They're bought into rebounding the basketball. And, I mean, rebounding can win you games, and not getting rebounds can lose you games. I thought not getting rebounds against UNC was going to lose us the game. But sometimes it's just about overcoming that. And Tech shot lights out. And Tech just needs to shoot lights out like they do against big teams every single night. And, Tech would win. But, I mean, that's...
Obviously easier said than done.
Obviously easier said than done. And obviously you're going to have bad shooting nights. And so you have to fall back on the defense. But that's just something Tech's got to get better at. That's really as I've seen it as a whole. It's as you put it, it is... The season is consistently inconsistent, which also like this podcast, but more inconsistent than consistent. But that's something that's it's something that just they're gonna have to get better at. I mean, just putting in consistency, getting this team older, getting this team more bought into an identity. I don't think there's been an identity yet, besides. No. Just show up for big games, which as a fan base you don't necessarily want unless you're not competing. But it's obvious that J-Bat wants this team to compete. And with Pastner, it's like you'd have your competitions here and there. It's like obviously the year we won the ACC. I think it was deserved. I think we would have lost to Virginia, but that's all what ifs. And that was kind of what was keeping Pastner there.
That was 2020 was just a funky.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting if you look at college basketball as a whole is we thought that COVID was just this fluke, or this fluky year or whatever, and it actually kind of helped describe college basketball going forward. That you don't know what's going to happen night in, night out. Top 10 teams are awful on the road this year. Like I think they have a losing record on the road against unranked teams, not necessarily when they're playing ranked teams. Against unranked teams, they have a losing record, and it's like obviously the transfer portal and NIL is just an absolutely different beast than any of us could comprehend of what it would become. But it's helping, the transfer portal at least is helping smaller schools become more competitive in terms of, yes. Absolutely. And I mean, it makes for March Madness to become an even better product going forward. And I mean, like last year, my best example was FDU. I mean, obviously, that's going to be everybody's story, or you can go with Furman. But with FDU, their tallest player was 6'7". Their average height, I believe, was 6'1", and they took down Zach Edey because of the skill that they had throughout the rest of the roster.
Zach Edey's a fraud and produce a fraud, and I'll stand by that forever.
Zach Edey is a fantastic college player.
Is a fraud.
Zach Edey is a fantastic college player because, yes, like I've watched a lot more Big Ten than you do probably, just because of
Yes.
the Michigan State side of me, as shown by my Magic Johnson jersey in the background. But Zach Edey, I will give him credit. He has gotten so much better since his freshman year. He doesn't foul a whole ton, whether you want to say he should be called for the fouls or not. He doesn't foul a whole ton. He's bigger than everybody. His touch is phenomenal, and he's not a bad passer. So, and you put all of that together into a 7'3" build, it's a beast for college basketball, and he's probably going to win Player of the Year this year. Yes.
Let's get back on track here.
Get back on track to tech. Sorry, I got sidetracked with basketball.
Big Ten.
I know. But so, if we go back to just we'll go. What's up?
You want to look forward now, or what else you got?
I mean, looking forward. Oh, look forward for the rest of the season, real quick. I mean, we got Clemson on Saturday or on Tuesday. We have Miami next Saturday. I mean, those are two pretty competitive games. Miami, they don't look like they're competitive. They have a good roster. No Chad Omier. Was it Wooga Poplar?
Yeah.
Nigel Pack, who we thought was the best player on Miami last year. Whether Isaiah Wong wanted to be,
he was awesome.
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't watched a whole ton of Miami this year. That's just been a team that I haven't really gotten to. But
neither have I. Isaiah Wong is one of those guys where you thought he was going to be in college forever.
Yeah, exactly. And now that he's not, you don't know where Miami's necessarily heading.
He was their version of Kihei Clark.
Pretty much. That, as much as we hated Kihei Clark, but
damn, he was good.
Yes, he was the guy that you want on your team. He's the guy you hate to play against, you want on your team. But it's like, looking forward in the ACC. Clemson, I mean, we beat them on the road. They're probably going to want to come back for vengeance. We just got to hope that we put together another complete game like we did the last time versus them. That's all hope, and hoping the coaching staff gets them prepared. And Stoudemire, that is a huge test. They are such a deep roster. Shefflin is incredible. PJ Hall is good. I'm not going to say incredible. He's good. They picked up Joe Girard in the portal, who's a phenomenal shooter and guard. Chase Hunter has been really good for them. Dylan Hunter off the bench for them is really good. Clemson's a very good team and most likely a tournament team. So if we
we've already beat, by the way.
Who we have beat, and on the road. Road wins in college basketball are super hard to come by. So looking forward for Clemson, we just got to hope that we come off of winning this and we don't get comfortable that we won a game finally, that we want to go win more games. So Miami, I don't know how that's going to go. It's a home game. We finally get a stretch of home games which we haven't had all season. And then we got Florida State at home, Wake Forest on the road, Virginia on the road. We have 2 road games to end the year. The back half, or the last 5 games of our schedule are going to be really tough, and
but also very, very winnable games.
Oh, absolutely. It's just how does the team come out?
This is a stretch here where you can string 6 together in a row.
Exactly.
To end your season.
Yeah.
Will it happen? Probably not. But
you hope they get like 4 out of 6 on it. You hope they get 3. Honestly, I hope they get 2 out of 6, or 2 to 3 out of 6, and you get the building blocks going into the tournament at least, because based on our record against ranked teams, all we have to do is just get past the first 2 rounds of the ACC tournament, and based on that logic, we could win the ACC.
Based on that logic, Georgia Tech is the favorite in the ACC.
Exactly, but it's just you just gotta get through it. That's the whole.
Yeah, no, but this is a stretch where you come to me in 3 or 4 weeks and Georgia Tech has won 6 in a row. I wouldn't be shocked.
No, it's just something about just hitting the stride at the right time. But it's just we got to hit the stride at the right time.
Yep.
And it's doable. I'm not going to say it's likely, but it's doable. And it's just we got to see what the building blocks going into the tournament, and then if you want to go even forward, just end the season on a good note. Have some building blocks even more so put in place for when Sturdivant and Claude and Murphy leave, and we bring in Jaden Mustaff, Darian Sutton, and Cole Kerouac, who pretty much it's like I wouldn't like the only things that are like replacements in terms of positions is Kerouac for Claude and Mustaff for Sturdivant. Darian Sutton, I don't know where we're gonna put him. That dude is a freak. He's by OTE standards, he's a 6'9" combo guard.
which is absurd to think about.
Yeah, granted, it's the style of basketball we're starting to go into. You have the positionless basketball, and I feel like that's kind of what Stoudemire wants to have, is you have this positionless basketball. Besides, you have your guard and your center, and then everybody else is just a player on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the Celtics are running things. That's where he came from. I mean,
it's you see,
wasn't necessarily a guard per se, but
yeah, he made it work, and it's one of those that we just have to. Like, the vision is there. It's just getting the pieces to fit correctly. He has the pieces potentially. He's just getting the pieces to all fit together. That's really the big thing. And I mean, that's how I see with Tech is you just got to put all the pieces together. Like Key is like going to the football side. Brent Key had the pieces and he put them together. Just happened to be in year one. And I think what's sad is that a lot of the fans are expecting the same turnaround when Key came from Key came from the program. Stoudemire's coming from the NBA, which is a vastly different world, and having to adjust to the college game.
Stoudemire prior to this had zero connection to Tech.
No, the only connection to Tech he ever had was Sturdivant because he's his godson.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's a stretch of a connection.
He was Tech through and through. He knows what it takes to win at Tech. He knows what it takes to motivate students here. He knows Georgia Tech. Stoudemire is still learning what it takes.
Yeah, and the thing with Stoudemire is it's another head coach that came from that Lou Olson tree, but of terms of players, because Pastner was also, but it's getting used to the Georgia Tech style, and I think it's unfair to put all these expectations on Stoudemire in year one because he started off the season hot. It's like the season starting hot, I think, is showing us what we can do as a program, but it's not the goal that we should have.
We are as a program.
Yes, it's as I said, it's the building blocks. We can see what can happen when they're successful. Or when everything is working. It's just getting everything to work and be consistent at that. So I mean that's really what I got. I mean that's kind of covering the season not on a game by game basis, but like in terms of how it's gone so far, what's been frustrating, bright spots. What's the most surprising thing to you this season?
Surprising has been Nate George. I think he's been awesome. We saw him coming out of the scrimmage game, and he looked like a true freshman, and he does not look like a true freshman.
No, he kind of grew up really quickly, and I mean, Damon has said it before. He's still learning how to watch film. I mean, we didn't realize that he should have still been in high school when we first watched him in the scrimmage. We're just like, oh, he looks like a true freshman. He just looks very raw. He could be something, but
he looked lost.
Yeah, and in that short time between the scrimmage and the Cincinnati, or even, the Cincinnati or the Duke game, he just looked so much better. And he grew up really, really quickly. I mean, he's still growing up. There's still pieces that he can get so much better at. But, I mean, obviously one of them being free throw shooting. This team as a whole is not a great free throw shooting team.
Oh my goodness.
But you can get around not having good free throw shooting sometimes. But as a whole, it's just the building blocks. It's hopeful in terms of the future, not for this season. It's this season. Stuff can still happen, but I mean, it's March, for God's sakes. We could steal the bid. Who knows?
Yeah.
Do I hope it happens? Absolutely. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not, if I'm being realistic. But it's not something I'd honestly put past them. And that's the optimistic side of me. If I'm being real, I mean, we probably win one round in the ACC tournament and then go out the next one. But I mean, I'd consider that a win with how the season has gone.
That being said, who's your pick to win the ACC this year? Who's taking it?
I gotta say Virginia.
Virginia?
I think that UNC has hit their version of the lull. Part of it is the Seth Trimble injury, and now they're trying to find the rotation again. They did have a better stepping stone for that today with their win over Virginia Tech. I just think Virginia, once they got into ACC play, just started playing their best basketball. I mean, obviously the regular season is going to come down to the second Duke-UNC matchup, but in terms of the ACC tournament, I think Virginia wins it just with their defense. They were 1 of 11 on free throws today and won. Like, their defense is ridiculous. It's like, that being said, I mean, obviously UNC, Duke, they're going to be the favorites. Clemson is going to be a good shout. But I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Kihei Clark hater in me that he's not there anymore, that I think Virginia's going to win it finally. But I don't know. Just watching when we played Virginia, like that's a 1-game sample size. But we played Virginia. Their defense was just something we couldn't figure out, and part of that was youth. Part of that was just Virginia's scheme and then their players that they have. But their defensive scheme, and Tony Bennett gets a lot of credit for it. Their defensive scheme is incredible, and it's like something that you just can't necessarily decipher. You just have to figure out the perfect game plan, and it's so hard to figure out the perfect game plan night in, night out, because they'll just adjust to it.
No, absolutely.
So
right.
that's
Who's
my
your ACC pick.
Who's your ACC pick?
I think it's Duke. I think Jared McCain is just.
He's starting to go off. I thought he looked very, very raw at the beginning of the season, especially when we played him. Both times we played him, he didn't look great.
He's finally hit his stride.
Oh, tonight he's such a versatile shooter. I mean, he had 35 tonight on like 8 threes.
The bigs and Filipowski and Mitchell, I don't think anyone can hang.
Yeah, between you got Filipowski, Mitchell, and then the guard play of Proctor, Roach, McCain.
They're just. I mean, that's.
Yeah, as much as like I don't think that John Shire is a fantastic coach, their team is just phenomenal.
No,
that's the same thing how I see with UNC though. Is I don't think Hubert Davis is a fantastic coach, but their talent is just incredible. I mean, Baycott. I mean, he feels like he's been in college for longer than Kihei Clark, and I mean that's part of it. Baycott's incredible. RJ Davis is one of the best point guards in the country. I can't say the best because Tyler Kolek is incredible, but RJ Davis is one of the best players in the country. And then you have Cormac Ryan, who's been slightly disappointing, but I thought he was going to be incredible. Harrison Ingram is probably one of the transfers of the year, though, for them. I mean, he's a 3-and-D wing that averages 11 rebounds a game.
Absurd, right?
He's ridiculous. He can shoot the 3-ball. You would say he could shoot it a little bit better. And that being said, I think going into the game where we played him, he was shooting 40% from 3. So it's like, where does it stand? UNC and Duke are probably the most talent-loaded teams, but
yeah,
I don't know. The ACC, as we said at the beginning of the season, it can go any way. We have no idea.
Yeah, Clemson could win it, and I wouldn't be shocked.
No,
Florida
exactly.
Could win, and I wouldn't blink. I mean, this is
that would be one I'm actually quite shocked at, because Florida State.
No, Leonard Hamilton will pull some voodoo magic.
That's fair. That's extremely fair.
Leonard Hamilton has his voodoo magic, so.
Okay, this is a very broad one. Who do you have winning the tournament, like the NCAA tournament as it stands? Or who do you say being Final Four? We don't know the regions, but who do you think are the 4 teams that'll probably make a deep run?
The 4 best teams. UConn.
Yeah, I think especially after today's performance, they solidified themselves.
Kansas.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Even with them having no bench?
Even with them having no bench.
Wow, that was not one I would have expected.
I think Kansas makes it. I don't want to say Purdue because I hate Purdue.
I think that they will choke, and it's like I'm hoping it's not a Virginia case, because the year Virginia lost to the 16 seed, the next year they went and won the national championship. So I hope that's not the case, especially as a Michigan State fan as well. And as much as I don't like Zach Edey, I'll give him his flowers. But yeah, I would hate if Purdue made the Final Four, but I could also see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I think UConn goes back to back though.
I think that's a good one. I think if I'm going with mine, I think UConn goes there. A team that I think is really, really tough that nobody even really notices is Illinois. They are a tough matchup for any team between Hawkins and I can't name their other guard to save the life of me, but they're both basically guards and they're like 6'8". And it's like Terrence Sharp, I think is his name. He averages like 20. And then Coleman Hawkins is their best player. So I think Illinois could give a lot of people trouble if they piece everything together. They could probably make a Final Four run.
But then again, Tech's proven that they can beat anyone in the country. So
No, yeah. So Tech,
so
Tech could make the tournament and then make the national championship, of course.
Tech's winning it all. Place your futures bets on it right now,
Right now,
guys.
Georgia Tech is winning the national championship for 2024. You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
But yeah, basically going to like college basketball, I think that if I'm going in terms of here, we'll call this fraud watch. Who are your frauds for college basketball this year? Purdue. That's a fair. Mine is Arizona.
Arizona fraud watch again.
No, they have no defense once again. I mean, their best defender I'd say is Caleb Love.
Yeah.
And it's like they're doing the same strategy of high tempo offense, fast pace, score a lot of points, and sometimes and most of the time it'll work because they're such a good offensive team. If you don't have the offense backing up with no defense, then that's just it. But
yeah,
I mean that's really. I mean we've gone through tech season. We've gone through ACC predictions, tournament predictions, frauds. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nope, I am all set.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us a listen or a watch. As I said in the beginning, please subscribe down below for more Georgia Tech basketball content or college basketball content going forward.
We gotta make sure we have one before the ACC tournament.
Oh, absolutely. I think we can do a full ACC preview, not just from Tech's perspective, but as a whole.
Cool. Let's do it.
I agree. Well, thank you very much for watching. We are out. See ya.